Often, we overlook one of the most important tools, our talk. How much do we actually take time to think through the words that we use in our classroom? I'm talking about our vocabulary. I'm talking about what we actually say, the words we choose in managing our classroom. Episode 4 was definitely a challenging one as Katie talked with us about our talk as our tool.
Language is a lot like that. We all have the same tool at our disposal, but whether we use it effectively to build up and to strengthen and to clarify, or whether we use it ineffectively, that's really the difference that we're talking about here with teacher language. So I think it's important, really, as we start out here talking about teacher language, that I guess this is one of the biggest steps for us as teachers, is to take a step back from what we are saying and how we talk, and to listen from an outsider's perspective. And that takes a really strong person to be able to do that. I'm the first one to say it's hard to change something that you've done for many, many years. I remember my mom used to say, when my sister and I were cleaning our room, or even when we were getting a house ready to sell, she would always use the phrase, come in as a buyer. And so we would say, well, the house looks great. I think it's ready to sell. And then she would say, well, we need to come in as a buyer. We need to come in the front door and look around as if we weren't connected to the situation at all, and view that situation from, like, taking our hands off of it. And we really need to do that as teachers. When we think about our language, we need to be big enough of a person to view what we say from an outsider's ear, and be strong enough to see that we might have some things to change in this area of language. And a few years ago, when I started doing a lot of reading on this topic and really studying and praying about it too, and seeing how I need to change things in my own classroom and seeking to make changes, it was a hard thing to do, but I had to be willing to step back and say, I may not be doing that right. And we all have to do that. That's something we all have to be willing to do as teachers, because language is such a valuable tool. We know that it can build up or destroy. I mean, don't we see that in social media? Just in 1 minute, in one sentence, someone's reputation can be marred, or someone can be torn down or built up and strengthened. And we know that language is valuable because it can give understanding, or it can clarify if it's specific enough. And we're going to talk about that later. We know that it can also provide a strong model to follow, or one not to follow. And in our day and age, I feel like as teachers, our role as a model is becoming more and more important. Students may not have as much connection with their parents, who may be very busy on social media, or maybe they have a home where there's not as much connection with the parents, whether work schedules or whatever it is. They are needing that strong model to follow in the area of language and how to communicate. And I know my first grade parents would say often, even this year, it would make me nervous when they would say, oh, well, my child comes home and they play school all night and they sound just like you. And I think I'm supposed to be smiling when they say that, but that really scares me to death, because whatever I say, they're going to be imitating, whether it's a good role model or not. And students really need that strong model to follow in the area of talking, communicating, in the area of language in general. There are different ways we use talk in the classroom. And if we kind of focus in and realize those 3 different categories, we might be able to use them more effectively. So I guess we could say safely throughout the day that our language could kind of be divided into 3 different kinds of talk. One would be reinforcing, one would be redirecting, and one would be reminding. And all of these 3 kinds we'll talk about here in a second, but I guess we could say that all of them should be focused around one word, and that would be the word action. Often as teachers, we just talk, not really paying attention to what our talk is doing or asking or clarifying. We just talk, and we hope that it's accomplishing its goal. Right. But if our talk is focused on action, then we might be able to get a whole lot more accomplished within a sentence or a phrase or a paragraph than we ever thought. And we talk a lot. And I like to step back and ask myself, I think this was a phrase from one of the books that I read, but it said, how did what I just said help that student clarify, understand something, or grow? And if I can't answer that question and really figure out a way that it helped my student understand, clarify, or grow, maybe I should have rephrased it, or maybe I should have just left it out altogether. There is a lot of talk that teachers do that could just be left out, because it
That's
really doesn't help help a student understand, clarify, or grow.
enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by BJU Press.